welcome back to my channel. This hair is probably going to just stay like this. The Smurfs, okay? It's a tough one because my memory is kind of jogged. Like, if you don't know what the Smurfs is, I'm going to pull up a little bit of information on the Smurfs. So, the Smurfs took on popularity somewhere in the 80s, I want to say. And, it was about 1981, a brief history of the Smurfs. Here it is right here. I just pulled it up. So, what I found when it came to the Smurfs is that there was quite a few Smurf stories, which just made the entire Smurf story nonsense more bizarre than what it already was. It was bizarre. Let me just tell you. So as an 80s kid, I don't want to keep on moving because then I'm gonna really mess up my audio. As an 80s kid, I'm an 80s kid. So the Smurf lie that circled around the Jehovah's Witness organization. I think the most the YouTuber who kind of explains it the best is Telltale. If you want to check out his Ex-JW, he does great Ex-JW content, but he does kind of explain it pretty nicely. So if you were anywhere born in, let's say, the 80s, if you're anywhere around that time, that's the generation that was pretty much affected by this whole Smurf stupidity lie. Urban legend, whatever you want to call it. We were told that Smurfs were demonic. Okay, so the Smurf cartoon came on, and the Smurfs just took on this huge popularity in the early 80s. They had the Smurf cartoon, they had Smurf erasers, they even had Smurf cereal. Smurfs were everywhere. Smurf plush dolls. I thought Smurfs were the cutest ever, and they were magical. So basically what was told to us, and I like to call the Watchtower just joy stealers. We got sat down. I remember my parents telling us that we were not going to have anything of Smurfs in our household, period. And I just thought they were so cute, so I wanted to know why. So what was told throughout the Jehovah's Witness community was, one, they were magical. And I think the one that was wicked, I forgot his name. Don't get me lying because it was so crazy. The reason I'm bringing this up is because sadly, there's a YouTuber, and you might know her name by Smurf Girl. She has some sort of correlation with that story. She said from somewhere from the 80s. But a tragic story just happened in her family, and it's really bizarre. I'm going to direct you to her channel if you really want to know what happened. 3 of her family members were killed, but her name is Smurf Girl. So this is what triggered me to saying, like, oh my God, I remember the stupid Smurf lie that we were told. Everyone who's somewhat of an 80s baby knows the whole Smurf lie phenomena. They know the whole Smurf urban legend. I think what happened was it was almost like the telephone story. It seemed like it just was a bunch of different Smurf stories. By the time I figured it out, I was just like, what? Like, yeah. So we were told no Smurfs was coming up in our house. We were told we couldn't watch no Smurf cartoons. And when we asked why, other than the fact that they were magical little creatures that believed in the god of luck or something, we were told there was these demonic encounters that Jehovah's Witnesses had experienced with Smurfs. Yeah. So let me tell you about the Smurf story. I got 2 stories when I was growing up as a Jehovah's Witness child. It was 2 demonic Smurf stories that I was told. And these stories really instilled a terrible amount of fear for Smurfs on the Jehovah's Witness children. And I was one of those, my siblings and I. I really liked the cartoon. I was so baffled, like, what? It was just so stupid. Like, I'm getting so, you can tell I'm getting anxiety now because it was one of the dumbest stories I had ever heard of, now that I think about it. But when I was a child, this really instilled a great, insane amount of fear into myself and my siblings in regards to, we just knew they were forbidden inside of our house, and we would just not ever dare talk about it. So let's get into the story. The story I got was two sisters were out in field service, and they were going door to door, and they rang somebody's doorbell, and a Smurf, a plush doll Smurf, answered the door. I'm laughing because this is the story that we was told, and I think he cursed them out, or they just kind of ended it like that. They were like, yeah, because a Smurf answered the door, and he like cursed two sisters out, and one sister, I think she fainted or something like that. So Smurfs are demonic. They're demon possessed, and my parents told us that there's no Smurf coming up in our house. Now, the second story, I can't remember which one I told. I think that was the one I was told first. The second story was the Smurf was in somebody's bag or baby bag, and it was like a little girl's had the toy. And that's the one that Telltale told, and I do believe that I remember that one. And it jumped out of the bag in the kingdom. I'm laughing because this is so stupid. So they said it jumped out the bag in the kingdom hall and started swearing because they were saying that the Smurf was possessed and it had demons in it. So, because it was a Kingdom Hall meeting and Jehovah's spirit was there, that demon that was inside the Smurf didn't like that. So it jumped out of the bag and ran through the Kingdom Hall and out the back door, never to be seen again. That was the second story I got. It was so bizarre. And we ate up every bit of it like steak, because you have to think, like, at that time in the 80s, there wasn't a lot of information about things. We didn't have Google. We had the regular library, and you wouldn't have nowhere to really cross-reference that story. Like, you wouldn't have it. So whatever your parents told you, you believed. So after having had the shit scared out of us about demons being inside and being possessed inside the Smurf, you couldn't get myself or none of my siblings near a Smurf. Like, you, even when I was older, I think my my family now, they crack up because I'm like, they don't understand like how much fear was instilled in me in regards to Smurfs. And I laugh so hard now because I'm like, how stupid, how retarded. I think, and this is what I think. I think that a bunch of Jehovah's Witness parents just wanted to follow the rules, and there was never any, I don't know if there was any talks. I want to say we did have talks on Smurfs. Some brother would come and give us that BS story. I think I could swear a brother came and gave us a story about the two sisters that was at the door, and the Smurf came to the door. I strongly believe that one was actually told from the podium. That's why I was really scared, because I really believed what was told. Now, the one with the little kid running through the Kingdom Hall, that was one of the urban ones that was circulating throughout the whole community, and it jumped out of the bag and ran across the Kingdom Hall and out the back door. Like, and that was the end of that. Like, after that, it's like everybody really believed it was almost like they were instilling this insane fear of demons. Nala, what are you doing? What is my cat doing? They were instilling this insane fear of demons. The Jehovah's Witnesses have a really insane fear of demons. I know I did. Ghosts, demons. I never messed with it growing up. It was the scariest thing to me, because it was instilled in me as a little tiny child. So that was the story I got on Smurfs. I love this. I just thought the Smurfs were so cute and so edible, and I I believed in that stupid Smurf story for a really long time. Like, not necessarily the Smurfs, but demons. I did. And they would scare us with demons. And not only would you have Smurf story demons, you would have other witnesses telling you their stories and their experiences with some sort of spiritual demon situation going on. And so it was literally the fear of demons more so than Smurfs. That's not the only cartoon I want to say they banned from us as a Jehovah's Witness child, under some bogus BS, basically bogus bullshit. The next one was Thundercats. Thundercats was one of the cartoons of big time middle 80s, I want to say, cartoon that they banned from us. And not necessarily having to do with demons, but having to do with an omen. And they found some scripture in the Bible. They could literally find anything to kill the joy of Jehovah's Witness children. That's what I saw. I started to see them as joy killers. Joy killers. I did. I started to say to myself, they will find anything. Like anything. It started to become a pattern. It was like anything that drew on like huge popularity in the community. And the Jehovah's Witness children were talking about it, and they would, pretty much we'd beg our parents for different things like Mario Brothers, and Thundercats was so popular. And as soon as they would get wind of that, basically what would happen is a brother would go and, or a parent would write to the society or write to Bethel, which was Brooklyn at the time. And then, hey, my kid is like obsessed with Care Bears or whatever it seemed like to be the real popular cartoon at the time that was really captivating children and distracting them in kingdom halls. That's why Smurf had gotten banned, because it was just a big craze in the 80s. And when the Watchtower would see a big craze or a big popular show taking and distracting children from the meetings and stuff, that's when they would write a letter and make an elder or somebody read it to the congregation and put the word across the board that this cartoon is banned. And I think I was done with them, I think, at age 10. This is when I started to realize that it was a load of shit, is when they took away Thundercats. When they were talking about Thundercats, and I was like, damn, this is the only cartoon that like we really liked and we really loved, and it was something we loved. And I just started to establish in my mind that those old 8 men in Brooklyn was just joy stealers. I was like, these freaking in Bethel old ass governing body, they just joy stealers. They find anything. We don't even have Christmas. We don't have birthdays. We can't go to parties. We can't make friends with worldly kids. And we had Thundercats, and we loved it. And I'm like, and they took that away. I'm like, they just don't want us to have any fun. And I started to, that was when I was probably about 10. That's when I was really realizing like something is just wrong here with this organization. It was starting to become a pattern of everything that we were finding that a kid would find that was really interesting. It had to be really popular too. That's when you would get a letter trickling down from Brooklyn, which was Bethel, and it would always come in, and the brothers in our Kingdom Hall, my dad was an elder at the time, would make an announcement that this is no longer allowed, and they would find some type of scriptural basis to ban it. And that's all it really was. Basically making up rules and restrictions to make children's lives miserable and make them only focus on the Jehovah's Witness doctrine. Really, essentially a miserable, exhausting life. I mean, miserable. When they took away Thundercats, that did it for me. Smurfs wasn't the biggest deal for me, but I still had a little chip on my shoulder because of the Smurfs, but it wasn't that great because the Smurfs didn't seem like I was missing out on something. But Thundercats was huge. If you are an 80s baby, if you are a, what are we, generation, what are we, Y or X? I think we're X. I can't remember. I think we're Gen X, Generation X. This is the generation that was destroyed by Smurfs. Yeah, we were. We couldn't have it. And I think that's the only cartoon. Smurfs and Thundercats were huge. I can't think of any other ones they really took away from. He-Man was another one. G.I. Joe, they took away G.I. They said G.I. Joe was violent. And I also think like they had a problem with Ghostbusters. Yeah, they had a problem with that. They had a problem with anything that was taken on huge popularity. And what I strongly believe is that the parents across the entire Jehovah's Witness community would be on board with basically making up fake demonic stories to scare the children. And just like the thing telephone, where, you know, people would just, you know, talk and run their mouth, telephone, you know, the whole gossip, it would change, you know. So I would hear demonic stories all the time about something that happened, and what the end result would be, yeah, that's what happens when you leave Jehovah and all kinds of stuff. So they would also tell you, hey, if you leave Jehovah, the demons are going to bother you. And you carried around that fear that, dang, I don't want the demons to bother me, because, and then, you know, I don't want to leave Jehovah because I don't want demons bothering me. And the stories, that the demonic stories that you would get from different witnesses saying that the demons terrorized them were horrendous. I mean, in the 80s. I don't know who's watching this video, who's 80s babies or Generation X, but 80s baby, Generation X, Lloyd Evans, he knows, because I've seen him talk about it on his channel. He knows what I'm talking about. It was really bad. It was just them always finding something to figure out a way to take away children's happiness. Because if you really use your mind and you really think, the governing body, those governing body men, they're really old. And you got to think, they're old, crusty men. They don't care for children, period. They're actually probably jealous of children. That's what I started to see. I'm like, they're just jealous of kids. Maybe their childhood was miserable. That's what it looked like to me. And they just literally get a kick out of making Jehovah's Witness children's lives miserable for no reason, or the reason is just to keep you really focused on what Jehovah wants, or what the cult, not Jehovah, but what the cult wants you to do. So that's why they would just take away things and forget about Harry Potter. I already know that was banned. That was banned before it even came out in the movies. I remember that one. But they would ban anything magical, which was funny to me because we watched The Wizard of Oz. My mother didn't have a problem with that, but I guess it was just so old. It was like, no, we're not worried about that. Anyway, that's my Smurf story. I don't know what y'all Smurf stories is, but I could tell you many of us have different Smurf stories, because the entire urban legend behind the Smurf was a lie. It is literally people in the organization making shit up, making lies up about it, I guess to just deter their children. That's what I saw as I got older. But I crack up and laugh because I'm like, I cannot believe everybody in the cult had a Smurf story, or demonic Smurf story. And now to figure out years later that these were all just made up Smurf stories. But the most popular one is the one that was in the Kingdom Hall that jumped out the bag and ran out the kingdom and was cursing. He was like, they said he was cursing. And I gotta tell you, being a kid and hearing that, it was kind of tough, because you're like, what? Like, but then you bought it because you really believed in demons. You really believed in the demon. That was how they got you. Demons, you know? So you would cringe and you'd be scared every time you heard that. Anyway, that's the Smurf story that I got, but my condolences really do go out to Smurf Girl. She has a tragic story that just happened to her family. Go over to her channel, check it out. She's Ex-JW Smurf Girl. And very, very sad situation that just happened. Looks like it happened like December the 16th. It just sounds horrendous. And it's actually giving me chills, because I can't believe that. I just can't believe that something like that happened. At the same time, yes, I can, because Jehovah's Witnesses cover our people. Another thing that I find really interesting and really funny, when somebody commits a crime, nobody knows what religious background their religious background is. Like, you can't claim to be a Jehovah's Witness if you like commit a murder. Like, they will never say in the news, oh, this person was a Jehovah's Witness and they committed murder. They will never do that. Like, crazy, right? Anyway, that's what I got. I got the Smurf story. And yeah, feel free to share your Smurf stories down below. I'm sure you probably have the same one or the same two that I just mentioned, or a different one, because there's quite a few Smurf stories circling around, that was circling in the Ex-JW community, and they were all, if you just Wikipedia them, pretty much all of them were urban legends. I just think it's hilarious. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll check you all in another one. Bye.